Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CuppaChino Club social TV channel. We go live 6 days a week, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. South African time, and every other day, Monday through to Saturday at 7 p.m. in the evening. And we chat about everything that's COVID related, about how people are pivoting, how they're coping, how they're not coping. Sit tight, we'll be back for more in just a sec.
Best is yet to come.
If you've just joined us, a warm, hearty welcome from cold Cape Town, South Africa. It seems like winter has set in for us, regardless of whether or not we're ready for it. So we're piling on the blankets down here. Let us know where you're joining us from in the world. We'd love to know. I'm your host, Bridgetti, Banda, and my co-host is Viola. Manuel. Viola, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is a very cold Cape Town. I just could not believe what the lovely mild day we had on Sunday, and then suddenly everything just changed. So I fortunately did the whole switch last week of moving all the winter clothes out of storage and putting summer clothes away. So I've got my lovely warm scarves and my throws and everything out. So it's a lovely cold day in Cape Town. But quite a lot of excitement and a lot of movement and energy around the move to level 3 in Cape Town, which should happen on the 1st of June, which is sometime next week. So lots of discussion from businesses in terms of what is required. Really nice packages, really nice, helpful information coming available to say what it means for you to be ready to actually open up level 3. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff happening.
Absolutely. So first of all, a warm welcome to you. If you're catching us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Periscope, welcome to the show. We do want to let you know that there's a quick change. One of the things that you learn with live streaming is you have to pivot very quickly. You have to think on your feet. Our guest has had a technical glitch today and unable to join us. We were going to have Anita Myers on the show to talk about emotional intelligence and how that can help us with COVID-19. And unfortunately, she's not able to join us today due to a last-minute technical glitch that occurred. But we're definitely going to reschedule with Anita. That's definitely on the cards, and we will have her back hopefully not next week. We've already got a guest for next week. Which is also going to be an exciting guest. We're going to be talking to Bill Vick next Tuesday. He runs a support group for people who suffer from pulmonary fibrosis, and he has got a lot to share with how COVID-19 has affected people with comorbidities and protecting vulnerable communities and how it's affected their lives. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation next week. And I think what we will do then is we will try and reschedule to have Anita back the following Tuesday.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
definitely a plan. But again, Bridgetti, just live, what things to recognize is that things just change so quickly. We were trying to have the representative from Labour, and with everything happening with unlocking of the economy and the economic plan being announced, some of our guests just are not available. So, we just have to roll with it. So we apologize to all our guests who are looking forward to the discussion. I think emotional intelligence.
We were too. We're disappointed too, but life happens.
Absolutely. We're very, very, I was really looking forward to the discussion. So it's a good thing that you and I enjoy each other's company and are able to have, meaningful conversations because, it's the issue around emotional intelligence is such an important thing. And I'm really eager to hear what Anita says the connection is between actually managing, the lockdown and how it actually links to lower levels of emotional intelligence. So that's going to be an interesting discussion.
Oh, absolutely. And let's not forget, we've got Todd Hartley tomorrow from Y-Buzz as our guest. And, we've been talking a lot about how businesses can pivot successfully, and that's right up his alley. That's something that he specializes in. And so, really looking forward to the gems that Todd is able to share with us tomorrow. Because, it never ceases to amaze me, Viola, the level of extremities that we've seen with COVID-19. On the one hand, we see people being innovative beyond imagination. They literally blow you away with the manner in which they have pivoted. I read a good news story last night as well. It was the manufacturer of one of the they make uniforms for the a very well-known sports team, basketball sports team. That was their job. They exclusively manufacture gear for this basketball team, and they decided to open up the factory after lockdown was announced, and they went full steam into providing gowns for the PPE sector. Gowns and masks. And I think the response from that sector has been nothing short of phenomenal. I think they need a lot of praise. We praise all our health workers, but I think we also need to give a lot of praise to companies who make curtains, who do all kinds of other things in the clothing sector, and have reached themselves to turning to making PPE. It's so many heartwarming stories in that direction. It's wonderful.
I mean, even the ICC, the Cape Town International Convention Center, being transformed into 850 bed field hospital, a paperless field hospital. That's amazing. For this Cape Town Stadium to be the space where people are sort of leaving, being checked for COVID, and then of course leaving to the airport to take their international flights to join their families. I mean, there's just so many examples of it, of where businesses are just completely turning around and being able to say, this is how we can make the best, we can add value to a very, very sort of tenuous situation. So there's a lot of businesses doing great stuff and a lot of important things. What's been interesting for us, of course, is the fact that we keep talking about the fact that we still have to peak. I know that the Western Cape is speaking about an 18,000 test backlog in terms of the testing that's being done in the Western Cape, and there's this huge backlog. And so, one of the things that we've been trying to, I think, emphasize on the show is that the reason we are encouraging people to stay home is so that they don't really put any additional strain onto the health system. And with an 18,000 person or test backlog, that's already creating a lot of strain. We've seen that, I know that Groote Hospital is speaking about the fact that they are also very close to capacity. And again, the context is we haven't peaked yet. So it's going to be, in everybody's best interest to try and just stick to the lockdown rules where you can, and as much as you can. And even though level 3 is going to open a lot more, I think there's still going to be room for people to just continue to be extremely cautious about what they will and will not do.
Viola, I think, I don't think we can emphasize that enough. We really are going to have to be very, very careful come 1 June. I think the temptation is going to be massive to want to hug colleagues and want to, have a cup of coffee with them. We are going to have to be extremely careful because in our fragile economy, we can't afford for small businesses to be closing for another 14 days, the cost of sanitation. It's going to, and on the one hand, I think a lot of people are dying to get back to work. And then on the other scale, which is something we were going to discuss with Anita today, is that there are people that are petrified of going back to work.
Yeah, they are. I mean, There's people that are petrified of sending their kids back to school. Teachers are petrified of going back to work because it's going to be an absolute mess. I mean, there's already, just in preparation, schools closing down because of teachers testing positive for COVID. So those schools have got to be closed down. So, we already heard of 3 schools that have closed down. I haven't been able to confirm that information, but I mean, schools will close down if teachers are tested and they are found to be positive. So, there's just a lot to consider. And from where I sit, I think a lot of people need to prepare themselves for the fact that if they can work from home, work from home. I know there is a discussion now, you need to pick up the discussion with your boss that says, I can work from home. I'm comfortable to work from home. I've got to just sort of look at the ergonomics of where I'm working from. If you need an office chair, if you need your office chair to be brought to your house, if you need your desk and you need your files and you need everything else to be able to operate at maximum efficiency, then those are discussions you need to have with your boss. If you need data, if you need a faster internet connection, if you need to move to fiber, for example, those are the conversations you need to start having with your boss now, so that you prepare yourself for the fact that it is going to be a longer term arrangement than you anticipate. But I just think for people who can stay off the roads, who can stay at home, who can be working from home, it's just safer to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And those are very practical conversations that one must have, and I think in hindsight, these are conversations we couldn't have, we didn't have time to have. But I think, the experience we've had now with working at home has given us great insight into what it is we need to be able to function well, and to do our jobs well enough from home. So I
Yes.
think, it's been a great learning experience. And as you said, now is the time to get into those practical conversations. How can I work from home more efficiently? And I
Yeah.
think it is, in some industries, it's going to take a lot of stress off business owners, um, because the business owners know that they can keep this, their responsibility for the amount of people that they have to keep safe. Because remember, the onus for keeping your staff safe and your business COVID free doesn't rest with the employees. It rests with the
Absolutely
business owner.
true. That
So
is
I think there are
absolutely true.
benefits in allowing more staff, or those who can work from home. There's benefits to the business owner to facilitate people working from home.
Correct, because you must also remember, Brigitte, even the people that come back to work still have to be able, you must still be able to prove that you can, implement social distancing. So initially you could put 4 people in that office, now you can only put 2. So instead of having to then get premises with more space so that you can actually do the social distancing, the people who can work from home, allow them to work from home, support them in terms of their work from home, send down their office chairs, send down the equipment that they need, contribute to the Wi-Fi and data costs, etc., and leave them at home. And then the people that must actually be on site, you then still have the space to play with in terms of the whole social distancing thing. So there's a lot to consider and a lot to think about. And it's actually now time for, we spoke about it at the end of the show last night, long-term thinking and actually just figuring out, how do I take what I've learned and the opportunity this crisis has afforded me? How do I take that now and actually implement it into my strategy for the next 2 or 3 years? How do I actually make this situation work best for me so that as a business owner, I can be my most efficient and I can be the most productive? So, those are the conversations that we need to now have.
Absolutely. I personally have heard from a number of small to medium-sized businesses who have said they are taking their businesses home. They've seen how well their staff can work from home. They've seen how efficiently they can work from home. They've seen the benefit of not spending 2 to 3 hours a day in traffic jams.
Mm-hmm.
And so their levels of efficiency have actually increased working from home. But I
Yeah.
think, they are now afforded the time to actually sit back and plan better? How can we accommodate each other? And the other, nuance of returning to school and to work is this issue of, people with comorbidities that can't return to work, people who plan to go to work and then someone gets ill, a child gets ill or a parent gets ill in the home. So I think there's a huge call for maximum flexibility in
Absolutely.
the way that we handle the workplace. Now's not the time for to be strict rules. It's not
Yeah,
going to work in this
yeah,
environment. What if you're a parent that had now planned on having a kid go back to school, and you say to your boss, "Yes, I will be at work." But now, 2 days later, the school closes down and says, "We've had a COVID case,
yeah,
14 days quarantine." That parent can no longer go to work.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So there's just so much to think about. I think there's going to have to be a level of flexibility. Lots of people are very comforted by structure, and we recognize that. But there is going to be a requirement for a lot more flexibility. And then, of course, you get the flip side of that coin, Bridgetti, people who desperately need to get out of their homes. People who are starting to get depressed, people that are starting to get emotional. It's emotionally draining for them to be alone, to be in their homes. Those individuals are looking forward to the 2-hour commute, to work, to sit in an office, to just see other people, to just interact with other people, even if it's, a social distancing situation. There are lots of people that have been saying to me, I cannot wait to go back to work. I miss people. I miss the idea of sort of, just having think tanks. I miss the idea of sitting down and just, having the kind of banter that allows for new ideas. So a lot of people are missing that. People are feeling that they are starting to regress in terms of their ability to take their businesses forward. They are just starting to feel overwhelmed by the idea of being sort of isolated. So there are lots of people that are looking forward to going back to work, that don't mind all the things we've listed as disadvantages, because they just really need that human interaction. But the nice thing about level 3 is that it's going to allow more of those people the option of actually going out and going to a workplace, provided that the conditions are, social distancing and masks and, all the others, PPE where necessary, all those precautions are taken care of.
I'm also thinking that, a lot more people are going to be open to a flexible arrangement where they, for example, come into the office maybe two or three times a week or one day a week and work from home for the rest of the week, so that they simply can come in and do some meetings,
Yeah.
touching sides with colleagues, but the rest of the time they have flexibility of going home. Because the last thing you want to do is starting to have overcrowding. The one thing that we haven't addressed, for example, is, going back to work in the office. What if you're working in a high-rise building where you are required to use the lifts?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, um, that is going to be another huge challenge,
Yes.
because, I don't want to be in a crowded lift with anyone,
And the
because you're,
nuisance
you're
of
literally in
actually
a
just
trapped environment.
absolutely. And the nuisance of actually then having to wait 20 minutes to get to your office, because you're actually in the building, but you've now got to wait because two of you have to get into the elevator at a time in order to manage that social distancing. And so, it's there's so much answer, so many practical things people need to sit and think about. Your commute to work is going to actually involve a little bit of traffic, because lots of people will be going back to work on, level 3. You're going to get to the office. If you are in a high-rise building, you're going to have to, really worry about, how many people are allowed into the foyer at a time, how many people are allowed into the lifts at a time. There's just these real practical things that need to be considered. So, again, I say, if you're comfortable to work from home, just stay at home, work from home, have conversations with your boss that allow you to work from home.
Because, a lot of people are suggesting, that companies implement staggered work hours, for example. It's easier said than done, I think,
Yeah,
for,
absolutely.
for a lot of people to try and organize staggered working hours, because it's going to affect, the people that staff the foyers, security staff, just the logistics of not being able to switch off the lights at 5 or 6 when if you close regularly and you're going to stagger your hours. Now there's a lot of
Yeah.
logistical things involved in arranging staggered working hours. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of loose
And then
nuts and
also,
bolts that we're going to have to address.
yeah, yeah. And then there's the issue of transport for people working after hours. Do you then arrange for your staff to be taken home with sort of private transport that is subsidized or at least paid for by the business? Then there's also the issue of safety and security for your staff. Especially staff working in the townships where you may not necessarily be able to access some of their places of residence, and you'll have to drop them on a corner. And at 12 o'clock at night, this person's got to be walking through one of the townships to get to where they stay. There's just really practical examples of that. So, but I do think that, Bridgetti, just as one of my closing remarks, I think it's important for businesses and for business owners to start engaging in these discussions before the 1st of June. Start talking to your staff, start finding out how they want to actually, just deal with it. What works for them? Is it a stay at home? Is it going to office? Is it a hybrid of those two? What works for them? Is it staggered hours? Is it shifts? Find out from the staff what works for them, and then sit down and apply yourself and apply your minds with your HR team and actually come up with a brand new sort of landscape for your staff to navigate, and see how it matches the interdependencies between departments and so on and so on. I think there's a lot of discussion that can take place now as people prepare themselves for level 3. But again, I think it's just going to be, for me, just in the interest of everybody's safety and everybody's health, and just the health system and the resources that we have. If you can work from home, work from home.
I think we cannot, caution people enough, because, my biggest fear is the last thing we really need is to find ourselves back into a forced level 5 situation.
Yeah.
If we're not very careful about how we do this. That
And
is
that's
my
happened.
personal worst concern.
Yeah, and that's happened in other countries. So it's not an unrealistic concern. It's happened in other countries that they've had to go back to hard lockdown. So we just have to be clever about it as Team South Africa. Just make sure we do it better.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of a wrap for our conversation today. Again, apologies that we couldn't have Anita Myers talk about emotional intelligence, but we're going to try and have it back in 2 weeks' time, or sooner if she's able to accommodate us at another date before 2 weeks. So tomorrow we've got Todd Hartley from Wirebuzz going to talk about businesses pivoting and how they can do that in an innovative manner. Thanks everyone for joining us live today, and we look forward to you joining us tomorrow again. Stay safe, everyone, and so from us in the studio, it is goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.